As previously announced, President Ferdinand R. Marcos will embark on an official visit to Washington, D.C. from July 20 to July 22, 2025, upon the invitation of U.S. President Donald Trump. President Marcos is the first ASEAN head of state to be invited to visit the United States and to hold a meeting with President Trump since the latter took office earlier this year. The purpose of this visit is to further strengthen the Philippines-United States alliance, to proactively engage the U.S. in all aspects of the relations and seize opportunities for greater security and economic cooperation. We will continue to underscore that for the Philippines to be a truly strong partner for the United States, we need to be stronger economically as well. Highlights of the President's visit include his bilateral meeting with President Trump, as well as separately with State Secretary Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Despite the short visit, several U.S. businesses have requested to meet with him, and he agreed to accommodate them, since these businesses are already in the process of investing in the Philippines. During the visit, the two leaders will discuss closer cooperation in economic, defense, and security matters of common interest. As you are all aware, the President's official visit also aims to address the U.S. tariff proposed to be levied on Philippine exports. The two presidents are also expected to discuss regional and international issues of common concern and how to further strengthen people-to-people ties. As the chair of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, in 2026, the President will invite President Trump to attend the East Asia Summit. Coincidentally, our two countries will mark 80 years of our diplomatic relations and 75 years of the alliance next year, and it will be an auspicious time for President Trump to come to Manila. The President's visit will be a brief one, with a very tight schedule. Following is a rundown of his meetings and engagements. The President will arrive in Washington, D.C. in the afternoon of the 20th, and immediately will be briefed by his cabinet secretaries on the agenda for the meetings. The cabinet secretaries include Secretary of Foreign Affairs Maria Teresa Lazaro, Secretary of National Defense Gilberto Chodoro Jr., Secretary of Trade and Investments Cristina Roque, the National Security Advisor Eduardo Año, Acting PCO Secretary Dave Gomez, Special Assistant to the President for Investment and Economic Affairs Frederick Go, and of course, Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez. On the 21st, the President will meet with State Secretary Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. In the morning of the 22nd, the President will meet with the U.S. President at the White House. The President's visit will wrap up his U.S. trip with a kapihan with the media in the afternoon before he leaves for Manila. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now ready to take your questions. Thank you.
Maricel Halili, TV5.
Magandang umaga po, ASEC. ASEC, of course, we expect na pag-uusapan nga po yung US tariff. But what does the President aim to achieve with the conversation with the US President?
Well, right now, there's a team, a group of Philippine trade officials who are in Washington, D.C., and they're conducting these negotiations. And we hope, of course, to arrive at a bilateral trade agreement or a deal on reciprocal trade that is mutually acceptable, mutually beneficial for both our countries. So that is something that we look forward to getting from the visit and, of course, during the meeting with U.S. President Trump.
Did the U.S. government mention why did they invite PBBM as the first ASEAN leader?
Well, there was no information, but I would surmise that since we have a long-standing treaty alliance with the United States and we have a special history with the U.S., that is something that is not totally surprising. So I would think that the invitation for the President to visit is an affirmation of the regard that the United States has for the Philippines.
Ma'am, last na lang on my part. So, ibig sabihin po, walang chance to meet with the Filipinos in Washington.
Not this time because it's a very short visit. So there's not going to be a meeting with the Filipino community.
Sorry po pahabol. Yun pong meeting with the business leaders, ano po yung objective, purpose of the meeting?
Well, as I indicated earlier in the statement, the objective of the visit also is to strengthen economic cooperation with the U.S. And these meetings with the business leaders is part of it. So we are interested, of course, in getting these potential investors to invest here in the country. And actually, these companies that I mentioned earlier are already in the process of investing in the Philippines.
Ivan Marina, GMA 7.
Good afternoon, ASEC. Initially, the tariff imposed on the Philippines was 17%, and then after negotiations, it was even increased at 20%. You said that a team of Filipinos are negotiating still the tariff rate. Is a free trade agreement, meaning the total elimination of tariffs, still on the table with regard to these negotiations?
Well, actually, I would defer on the DTI on that and to our negotiating team in the U.S. But we are hopeful, of course, that we can arrive at a mutually acceptable trade agreement.
Therefore,
With the US.
the lower the better.
Yes.
Nabanggit nyo rin po yung mga nakiusap na makapulong ang Pangulo ng mga negosyo. Can you please tell us more about those? Would you have the names of companies or at least in what industries they're in?
Right now, we cannot disclose the names of these companies, but be assured that they are in line with the priorities of the Philippine government with respect to the promotion of our development objectives.
Thank you, ASEC.
Tristan Nadala, Newswatch Plus.
Hi, Asag. Good afternoon po. In terms of defense and security rin, or do we expect na matakal din ni President Marcos and President Trump yung issue sa West Philippine Sea, and meron po bang mga agreements or defense agreements na possible mapirmahan or ma-discuss?
Well, in the agenda of the meetings, there's going to be an exchange of views on regional issues and concerns. So ultimately, this issue on the West Philippine Sea would be discussed. And as to the possible agreements, well, we're hoping to secure the assistance or support of the U.S. government in enhancing the capabilities of our AFP and the Coast Guard in terms of the capabilities of our armed forces and